Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be learning about animal adaptations. Okay, so before we get into that, I want you all to observe the picture on the screen. So just look at the animal, try to observe some of its features. Okay, I'll get into explaining why I asked you to observe the picture, but for now, just try and remember how many ever things about it you can. So before we get into animal adaptations, let's just go over a few points that we need to know before we can learn about them, right? So, some basic points to remember. First, animals and humans require food, oxygen, water, and shelter for survival, right? We all know this. So it's not just animals, humans too need all these things. But humans actually have it a little easier than animals. We know our homes, we're supposed to live in our homes. If we need food, we know where to go and get food from. And we have oxygen around us and water around us, right? But animals actually have to fend for themselves. So they need to have survival instinct. So, what we mean by that is they need to be able to survive in their environments to get their food. And why do they need to get their food? Because they cannot create their own food. And we know some plants can create their own food, but animals cannot do that. So, we know a lot of animals live in scary places, right? So there are hot deserts, very deep oceans, cold mountains, forests. So to get food in these environments, it's difficult. So that's why to be able to survive, to be able to live in these environments, animals over the years, through lots and lots of generations, they have actually developed, not just animals, as humans too, we've developed some special features which we call animal adaptations, right? Okay, so I've given you just a brief introduction, but now we'll see how we can actually define animal adaptations. So, what are adaptations? So they're basically the special features that help any animal to survive in its habitat. So what do we mean by a habitat? It's an animal's home, right? So it can be something different for different animals. Different species live in different places. So that's why actually different animals living in different places have different adaptations. All animals won't have the same adaptations, right? Because they need a few particular or specific adaptations to help them survive in their home, right? So these adaptations can be for different things. So it can be for getting food, which is what we'll focus on, or it can also be to help them survive against predators. What do we mean by predators? There could be other animals that are trying to attack these animals, so they need to protect themselves. So for both these reasons, right? So the adaptations come about over lots and lots of many years. They don't happen immediately. So these characteristics come according to where they live and what food they eat, which is what we're going to see now. So these are also the ways that animals know how to survive. For example, we see a bird when it's born. In a few days, it learns how to fly, right? So no one really teaches a bird how to fly. They already have their wings to fly with. So that's an adaptation that's come on to birds over many years. Then another example, we see polar bears. They live in the snow, right? So we know that all animals can't live in the cold. So why do they have fur that protect them from the cold? It's because since they live there, they've got that adaptation. So that's what we generally mean by adaptations. They're just features that help animals survive in their habitat, which is their home. So I hope you've watched the previous video explaining what are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, because we're going to be looking at adaptations that help herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores obtain their food, right? Okay. So first we have herbivores, right? So now, what do we mean by herbivores? You should already be knowing this. They have a plant diet, meaning they eat plants and plant-based material. So we have a picture of a cow there, and that's an example of a herbivore, right? Yeah. So an adaptation that we see here is that they actually have mouth parts that are adapted to grinding. So grinding is a function of our teeth to grind the food. So it is because the herbivores eat grass, tree bark. So these are actually very tough material, tough plant material. So to be able to eat this, they have wide, flat teeth which are adapted to grinding. Okay, so that's feature number one. And secondly, they also have, so this plant matter is difficult to digest. We know the food that we eat, our stomach needs to digest it, right? So that the body gets energy. So it's actually quite difficult to digest. And that's why herbivores have features that help them digest the plant matter that they eat. So they have wide, flat teeth, which we know as molars. We have them too at the back of our mouth. And they have features in their stomach that help them digest the plant matter. Coming to carnivores. Now, remember the picture we observed in the first slide. So this is a wolf, which is an example of a carnivore. They eat meat, right? Exactly. So even our first picture that we saw, you saw the sharp teeth in their mouth, right? So that actually is an adaptation. So why they have them is because these animals hunt. They hunt down other animals, their prey, and they eat them, right? So to be able to bite through the flesh and through the meat and the muscle, they need to have sharp teeth. Now we saw that the herbivores had flat teeth, but the carnivores will have sharp teeth, right? So that's a first adaptation. They also have very strong jaws, once again, to help them bite through the muscle and fat. Next, so lion, cougars, and all these cats, they have claws too. That's adaptation number 2. So how do the claws help them? So when they hunt down the animals, they need to be able to grab the animal, right? We know that they are able to run really fast as well. They have a lot of endurance. Then they need to grab their prey, and that's why they have claws. So it's not only lions and wolves, but there are many birds that are carnivores too. We have our hawks and owls. They also use their claws, which for birds we will call talons. And that is also used for hunting, right? Then we know that birds also have their beaks. So many of them will have curved beaks so they can tear apart the prey once again. So it's to do with the food that they eat. They have the sharp teeth, the strong jaw, and the claws. These 3 things we've talked about. Now, we know that many carnivores grab their prey in their mouths also. So there's many types of birds. They don't have very strong claws, so they grab it in their mouths. So once again, that's why they have the strong jaw and the curved beak or sharp teeth, right? So there are birds, even we have the toads that are grabbing mice in their mouth. We have the blue heron, which is a type of bird. It snatches fish or crab from the water, right? Now, another type of carnivore that we see is, for example, a snake. Now we know snakes don't have claws and they don't have a lot of sharp teeth or a strong jaw, right? So what do they do to capture their prey and get their food? Now, snakes, they can have venom in their fangs. They have fangs, just 2 front teeth. So with a bite, and some animals can sting. So they have a toxic venom. When they bite the other animal, which is their prey, they actually paralyze or kill the animal, and then they can proceed to eat it. So that's how they survive in their environment, right? So they have the toxic venom, which is to paralyze or kill their prey. I hope you all know what paralyze mean. So it's sort of, the animal won't be able to move once the toxic venom enters their body. Now, I hope you've all seen jellyfish. So they have the tentacles, which also have stingers on them. So they can sting that fish that are swimming nearby. And once again, that paralyzes the fish. So carnivores, we can see, since there's so many different types of carnivores, for each carnivore, depending on what they eat, they're having special adaptations. So we saw the strong jaw, sharp teeth, sharp claws. Some of them have the toxic venom. So these are the different types of adaptations. And now we come to omnivores, okay? So omnivores, they actually have the adaptations of both herbivores and carnivores. That's very important to remember. So now we saw carnivores and herbivores separately. Omnivores can be thought of as bringing the features together. So let's take raccoons as an example, okay? So if you haven't seen a raccoon, that's the picture that's there on the side. So they are actually omnivores. So what we see is that they eat both meat and fruits, which is a plant-based food, right? So since they eat the plants, they have the flat teeth, which are the molars, like herbivores. But since they also eat meat, they eat some type of mice or mouse. So they actually have long fingers and paws to help them grab the mouse and even to grab a few fruits from trees. So do you see how they have the adaptations of both herbivores and carnivores, right? Yeah. So now we have to think about the fact that adaptations are to help animals survive. So when it comes to comparing the three types of animals that we saw, omnivores actually will be able to survive in more difficult conditions because they can adjust their diets. For example, if they're not able to find any meat, for the time being, the raccoon could eat fruits, right? Or imagine if a lot of trees are cut. So the raccoons could go back to eating meat. So they actually have a better chance of surviving in their environment since they can adjust their diet or since they can adjust what they eat. Now, we should remember that humans ourselves are omnivores too. We know many of us eat meat and eat plants, right? Exactly. So we ourselves have teeth. We have the sharp teeth, which is our canines, and we have the flat teeth behind, which is our molars. So this is one adaptation that we have as well. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you understood what animal adaptations are. If you have any doubts, leave them in the comments. Thank you.